If you're interested in the real story behind XRP, not just the hype, not just the noise, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because here we break things down differently. No blind optimism, no fear-driven takes, just clear thinking. Now, let's talk about something that's been floating around the crypto space for a long time. XRP to $100. You've probably seen it, maybe in thumbnails, maybe in tweets, maybe in comment sections filled with people saying it's inevitable. Some even go further, $1,000, $10,000, numbers that sound insane at first, but somehow keep coming back. So the real question isn't just whether XRP can hit $100. The real question is, why do so many people believe that it can? Because this belief didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's built on a mix of facts, assumptions, narratives, and, of course, a bit of hope. Let's start with what makes XRP different. Unlike most cryptocurrencies, XRP wasn't created to replace money in the way Bitcoin was originally imagined. It wasn't designed to be digital gold. It wasn't built around the idea of decentralization at all costs. XRP was designed for something very specific, moving money across borders quickly and efficiently. And that's a real problem. Right now, the global financial system is slow, it's expensive, it's fragmented. If you've ever sent money internationally, you already know how painful it can be. Transactions can take days, fees can stack up, and in many cases there are multiple intermediaries involved, each taking a cut. This is where Ripple, the company closely associated with XRP, enters the picture. Ripple's goal has always been to improve this system, not destroy it, not replace it entirely, but upgrade it, make it faster, make it cheaper, make it more efficient. And XRP plays a role in that vision. The idea is simple in theory. Instead of pre-funding accounts in different countries, which ties up massive amounts of capital, financial institutions could use XRP as a bridge asset. You convert one currency into XRP, send it across the network in seconds, and then convert it into another currency on the other side. Fast, cheap, liquid. At least that's the vision. And if you think about it, if something like that actually gets adopted on a global scale, it's not hard to see why people start imagining much higher prices. Because price, at the end of the day, is tied to demand, and demand comes from usage. So the argument goes like this. If banks, institutions, and financial systems around the world start using XRP regularly, the demand for XRP increases. And if supply doesn't keep up with that demand, the price goes up. Sounds reasonable, right? But this is where things start to get more complicated, because there's a difference between a good idea and real-world adoption. Ripple has already made partnerships with various financial institutions over the years. That part is true. You can look it up. There are banks, payment providers, and organizations that have tested or integrated Ripple's technology. But here's the key detail that often gets blurred. Not all of those integrations actually use XRP. Some use RippleNet without XRP, some experiment with it, some move away from it. The relationship between Ripple's business and XRP's utility is not always as direct as people assume, and that matters. Because for XRP to reach something like $100, we're not talking about small-scale usage. We're talking about massive, global, consistent demand. We're talking about XRP being deeply integrated into the financial system, not as an experiment, but as infrastructure, and that's a very different level. Now let's talk about numbers for a second. If XRP were to hit $100, its total market value would be in the trillions of dollars. That would place it among the largest financial assets in the world, not just in crypto, but globally. That kind of valuation doesn't come from speculation alone. It requires real capital, real usage, real trust. So when people say XRP to $100, what they're really saying, whether they realize it or not, is that XRP would need to become a core part of the global financial system. That's a big statement. And it's not impossible, but it's also not something that happens quickly. Financial systems don't change overnight. Banks are slow. Regulations are complex. Governments are cautious, especially when it comes to money. Which brings us to another major factor, regulation. One of the biggest stories surrounding XRP has been its legal battle with the SEC.
And regardless of where you stand on that issue, there's no denying that regulation plays a huge role in the future of XRP. Clarity matters. Institutions don't just jump into assets without understanding the legal framework. They need certainty. They need compliance. They need to know that what they're using won't become a liability later. So for XRP to reach its full potential, regulatory clarity isn't just helpful, it's essential. Now let's shift perspective for a moment, because while there are valid reasons to question the $100 narrative, there are also reasons why it continues to persist. And one of the biggest reasons is belief. The XRP community is one of the strongest in crypto. It's passionate, it's persistent, and it's deeply invested, not just financially, but emotionally. Many holders don't just see XRP as an asset, they see it as a long-term play, a system-level shift, something that could redefine how money moves globally. And when you combine that kind of belief with selective information, optimistic projections, and a bit of echo chamber effect, you get very powerful narratives. Narratives that spread, narratives that grow, narratives that keep the idea of $100 XRP alive. But belief alone doesn't drive price. Reality does. Adoption does. Liquidity does. Infrastructure does. So the more interesting question becomes, what would actually need to happen for XRP to realistically approach those levels? First, it would need widespread institutional adoption, not just partnerships or pilot programs, but real, consistent usage at scale. Second, it would need to solve or significantly improve cross-border liquidity in a way that current systems cannot match. Third, it would require regulatory clarity across major economies, not just in one country, but globally. Fourth, it would need deep liquidity markets so that large transactions can move without causing extreme volatility. And finally, it would need time. Because even if everything goes right, transitions at the scale of global finance take years, sometimes decades. So where does that leave us? Somewhere in between hype and reality. XRP isn't just another random token with no purpose. There's a real idea behind it, a real use case, a real attempt to solve a real problem. But at the same time, the path from useful technology to $100 asset is not simple. It's long, it's uncertain, and it depends on factors far beyond just price charts or community sentiment. So when you hear someone say XRP to $100, it's not something you should immediately believe or immediately dismiss. It's something you should analyze, question, break down. Because in the end, the future of XRP won't be decided by predictions. It will be decided by adoption. And until that adoption becomes visible, measurable, and undeniable, the price will remain a reflection of both expectation and reality. Somewhere in between. And maybe that's the most honest place to be right now. Not fully skeptical, not blindly optimistic, but aware, watching, and thinking a little deeper than the average headline. Because in this space, the biggest advantage isn't being first, it's being right.